This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
After 3 days of extended talks, Pakistan's ruling coalition took an unprecedented decision, questioning President Pervez Musharraf in a move to initiate impeachment proceedings. The coalition blocs agreed on the principle of beginning to isolate Musharraf from the presidential seat. They will question him legally until charges are issued against him. This will be presented to the parliament for authentication within the next few days. No less than half of the members need to approve it for it to pass. The official announcement of the questioning will be made public later today, during a press conference held by the leaders of the coalition. The coalition is headed by the bloc of former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. President Pervez Musharraf, who has been ruling the country since a military coup d'etat in 1999, has entered the end of his political life. Civil resentment against him grew after the assassination of former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, and his popularity dropped to its lowest level as a result. That was clear in the results of the legislative elections, during which his allies suffered a bitter defeat. His decision to remove the judges after imposing a state of emergency participated in strengthening the hostility against him. Tension permeated his political situation, with the new government formed by two previous opposition blocs. Joining us from Islamabad is our correspondent Mayub Khader. The ruling coalition agreed today to begin the process of Musharraf's impeachment. What is the next step? And has there been a formal announcement in preparation for the next step?
نعم دانا دعيني أشير إلى أنه قبل دقائق من الآن وصل نواز شريف إلى منزل السيد آصف علي زرداري.
Yes, just a few minutes ago, Nawaz Sharif arrived to the house of Mr. Asaf Ali Zardari, leader of the Pakistan People's Party. They will hold a joint press conference announcing the results of the talks, which continued for 3 days between the two sides.
بالنسبة للسؤال فهناك الآن يفترض بأن بعد الإعلان رسميا.
In response to your question, after the official announcement about the agreement to impeach President Musharraf, members of the government coalition are supposed to present a memo to the parliament demanding the impeachment of President Musharraf. After that, the House Speaker, Dr. Fahmida Mazari, will call for a joint parliament session, including the National Assembly and the Senate. This will take place no sooner than 7 days and no later than 14 days, during which they will vote on the impeachment of President Musharraf. The impeachment will take effect if the government coalition wins 2/3 of the votes in the parliament.
نعم، يعني بانتظار أي قرار تجاه هذا التهديد، يعني ولكن هذا التهديد ما مدى.
So, the threat is looming. But how serious is this threat against Musharraf, who has the support of the military institution and who is regarded by the United States as a strong ally in fighting terrorism?
This is a strong threat for President Musharraf. And as you know, a little while ago, the Foreign Ministry of Pakistan announced that President Musharraf has officially cancelled his trip to China to attend the opening of the Olympics. This is a sign that there is confusion in the presidential camp. President Musharraf is currently conducting talks with his allies, especially the leaders of the Unity League. He's meeting with many of his allies at the presidential palace. This might be an attempt to find an alternative before resorting to his authorities to challenge the impeachment, which seems to be inevitable.
So, all signs suggest that Musharraf is in a sensitive position. But what are the constitutional options available to him, particularly in the way of blocking the decision?
Until now, President Musharraf has large constitutional authority, including the power to dissolve the parliament. President Musharraf can't dissolve the parliament. The big question right now amongst Pakistan's political circles is who will strike first? Will the government be able to impeach President Musharraf through the parliament, which would be a first in Pakistan's political history? Or will President Musharraf preempt a decision with an early strike dissolving the parliament, which would return democracy in Pakistan to square one and would require a call for new elections?
Mayub Khader from Islamabad. Thank you very much.
The Israeli occupation soldiers used force to prevent dozens of protesters from the village of Na'alan, as well as international activists from reaching the location where the separation wall is being built. Occupation soldiers used rubber bullets and tear gas bombs to disperse the demonstration, which began in the middle of the village west of Ramallah. A number of the protesters were suffocated. Meanwhile, Israeli bulldozers continue to bulldoze near the village of Na'alan to build the separation wall and expand nearby settlements. About half of the village's land has been confiscated already. Joining us from Ramallah is Al Jazeera correspondent Jedra Al-Badrouri. Jedra, how is the situation there? Is the situation still tense?
الاشتباكات تشتد أحيانا تخف أحيانا أخرى الآن قوات الاحتلال تمنع بالكامل الأهالي من
Sometimes the clashes intensify, and sometimes the clashes decrease. Now, the occupation forces are completely preventing the residents from reaching the area where the Israeli bulldozers are located. A number of the young men in the village and international activists managed to raid a bulldozer after its driver escaped. When this happened, the Israeli soldiers used rubber bullets and tear gas bombs. There have been 3 injuries. One person is now undergoing surgery because he was hit directly in his jaw. The other 2 injuries were moderate and light. 3 people were arrested. One is a member of the Anti-Separation Wall Committee. Also, 2 international activists were arrested. Thus, 3 people were injured and 3 others were arrested. The occupation forces continue to prevent the residents from reaching the area where the separation wall is being built. One can say that what happened today almost happens every day in the village of Na'alim. This is a popular resistance against the construction of the separation wall, the confiscation of whatever is left from their village, and expanding the nearby settlements. The demonstration began from the southern part of the village, but the occupation forces were waiting for them. As I said before, they used force to disperse the protesters. They beat the protesters and used their hands to tear the clothes off dozens of protesters. What is important is that this may have been in reaction to the video images that were published 3 weeks ago. An Israeli soldier shooting a young handcuffed and blindfolded Palestinian man at close range. Today, Israeli human rights organizations, and Bet Salem in particular, demanded that Israeli courts do more than relieving the army officer who gave the order to the soldier to do the shooting from his duties, but rather to enforce strong and tangible punishments against him. Bet Salem went to the court to prevent him from going back to the Israeli army. Also, a parliament member from the Pervez party submitted a similar request to the Israeli court. It seems that the demonstrations in Na'alim have been intensifying, in part, in reaction to these images. Some Israeli sources said that they are concerned that what happened in the nearby village of Ba'alan, which won back a few kilometers of its confiscated land, may also happen in the Na'alim village.
The family home of the terrorist who shot to death 8 yeshiva students at the Merkaz Arav Yeshiva is set to be demolished. This decision comes after months of deliberation on the matter, much of which stemmed from questions surrounding the legality of demolishing a home within Jerusalem municipal limits. IBA's Elisha Rabin reports.
Defense Minister Ehud Barak says it's confirmed the home of terrorist Ala Abu Dahim will be razed. The issue comes with controversy as Abu Dahim's family lives in the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Jabal Mukhaber. Residents of the area carry blue Israeli identity cards that allows them to travel freely throughout Israel while enjoying most of the rights afforded to Israeli citizens. The government has not demolished a home since 2005. The IDF concluded in a study that year that house demolitions do little to serve as a deterrent to suicide bombers. But following the March attack on the Merkaz Harav, Prime Minister Ehud Olmert joined a chorus of those in the government who supported the demolition of Abu Dahim's family home. Defense Minister Ehud Barak reviewed the legality of demolition within Jerusalem city lines and in a statement today said that Abu Dahim's family will be given 2 weeks to appeal the move, both to top military officials and the High Court. The parents of the students killed in the attack said that they support demolishing the home of the man who killed their sons, but that nothing can bring their children back. For that reason, they said the demolition would be little consolation in the matter. Meanwhile, there is much speculation that the decision to destroy Abu Dahim's home will have wide implications for the future demolition of the homes of this year's 2 other East Jerusalem terrorists. Both families of this summer's 2 bulldozer terrorist attacks live in East Jerusalem, and many in the government have placed equal pressure on the military to destroy their homes as well. For IBA News, I'm Elisha Rabin.
A Hamas source has warned that Gilad Shalit may remain in captivity forever if Israel fails to meet its demands. The source was responding to an article published by Gilad's father, Noam, in the East Jerusalem daily Al-Quds earlier this week. In that article, Noam Shalit charged that Hamas's failure to carry out a prisoner exchange deal is keeping thousands of Palestinians behind bars in Israel jails. The Hamas source said he understands Shalit's distress and frustration, but he urged that he direct his pain and his messages to his own government. The Hamas official said the ball is in Israel's court. Diplomatic sources in Jerusalem said Israel has agreed to free 70 of over 300 prisoners, many of them with Israeli blood on their hands, whose release Hamas is demanding.
Al-Qaeda went to the city of Baghdad along the banks of the Euphrates River because it has the largest American military base, Ain al-Asad, or the Lion's Eye. In the past, the soldiers at this base could not sleep at night due to the constant sounds of mortar shells and missiles. However, al-Baghdadi is now safe, and the Lion's Eye can sleep. Majid Hamid has the details.
We are passing by the largest American military base in the Middle East, which is called the Lion's Eye. It is located in the city of Baghdadi, one of Iraq's southern cities. These planes that appear on the screen are Iraqi planes that have been here ever since the war in 2003. At the time, they had never left the ground because they were no match for America's technologically advanced planes. They are still on the land of Baghdadi, which has become completely safe.
It looks like the security situation is improving.
It looks like the security situation is improving in these areas. The situation is improving every week due to the cooperation between the Iraqis and the Americans here.
1 year ago, the security responsibilities were handed over to local authorities. Calm has spread in the city since then. The situation is very safe to the extent that the American soldiers are now preoccupied with solving problems among Iraqis themselves. Because they no longer have to defend themselves from the military operation that used to be carried out against them, now they have time to listen to people's stories in al-Baghdadi's living rooms.
Thank God security has spread in al-Baghdadi. We received the responsibility of security 1.5 years ago. Now the Anbar police is in charge of the security operation in this area. The chief of the Anbar police, Major General Tariq, is closely watching the security situation. We have established strong checkpoints at the intersections that lead to the Al-Tharthar province.
Thank God the security situation is good. We do not have problems.
This city borders 6 other large cities, Al-Fallujah, Al-Ramadi, and Heat from the east, Anna, Rawa, and Al-Qaim from the west. Al-Baghdadi, which links these cities, is also surrounded by the Euphrates River. Now the River Patrol is being trained to enforce security on the river. All this is done to ensure that this safe city stays calm. From Al-Baghdadi, Western Iraq, Maji Hamid, Al Arabiya.
Lebanon has recently come out of a series of cesareans that ended with the birth of a new president in the Baghdadi palace. An agreement was finally reached in regards to the ministerial positions, in spite of the field of explosive obstacles and unresolved issues. No sooner than when things settled down did the Spanish security forces reveal to the fatigued Lebanon that it was a major al-Qaeda target. According to this wealth of Spanish information, the plans were mentioned in an al-Qaeda training manual and included suicide operations and the exploding of airplanes and cars by remote control. These attacks were said to be aimed at the interim forces in Lebanon.
وكأنه محرم على هذا البلد أن ينعم بأيام هادئة.
It's as if Lebanon is prohibited from enjoying calm days. The Lebanese people just got a chance to breathe. Security was maintained inside the camps, and the security and political situation of the country stabilized. And with the election of the president and the formation of a unity government, the watchers went back on their course. Then came this al-Qaeda announcement, a looming evil that would shake the security and stability in the country. Al-Qaeda has previously warned of targeting Lebanese officials, embassies in Beirut and commercial centers with suicide operations. This time it is threatening to target the interim forces in the south of Lebanon. However, it seemed that this is not just a warning, with al-Qaeda taking its time until its movements are well planned. A Spanish report revealed that al-Qaeda plans to launch attacks against the interim forces in Lebanon by using explosives controlled from a distance. The Spanish brigade working in the south has already been targeted several times by assaults, which killed and injured several people. A UNIFIL source affirmed that the interim forces are taking these threats seriously. They said that they have no intention of withdrawing or taking special precautions. This is because they have taken special preventative methods since their arrival in Lebanon and until now. This report came only a few days before the arrival of the Spanish Foreign Minister Miguel Angel Moratinos to Beirut.
This report is one of two things. It is either a European plot to make the Security Council decide to strengthen the presence of the interim forces to counter the weapons of the resistance, or Hezbollah, in southern Lebanon, or it is indeed a threat from al-Qaeda to push the interim forces to take tighter precautions against Hezbollah. In regards to al-Qaeda, since the weapon of the resistance is Shiite, the struggle here is ideological within the Islamic religion. It is a struggle between the ideology of al-Qaeda, which is Salafi, and the ideology of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, which Hezbollah has adopted.
The official presence of al-Qaeda in Lebanon is not yet confirmed. However, it is known there are fundamentalist organizations in Lebanon that have links to and are supported by al-Qaeda. According to observers, these organizations were born within the womb of Palestinian camps. There is no authority for the Lebanese government in the politically, economically, and socially enclosed camps, which helps the spread of extremist ideologies. These organizations are expected to resume their activities for a variety of reasons. The most important of those is that Shakir al-Absi, the organizer of Fatah al-Islam, is still in hiding, and he insists on saving face after the battles of Nahr al-Barid. Al-Qaeda decided to work in a new way in the political arena after fundamentalist groups were arrested in the north of Lebanon. It started viewing Lebanon not only as an arena of victory, but as an arena for jihad and the settling of scores in the region. Al-Qaeda previously made threats during the political divorce between the opposition and the government allies, which made it easy to ignite sectarian strife. But today, during the time of political and sectarian agreement, what will be the fate of these threats and how truthful are they? Will internal agreement obstruct it, or is it a major reason fueling it? For Al-Madar, this is Ula Al-Mallah, Abu Dhabi TV, Beirut.
With Pakistan, a Pakistani scientist who had vanished in the past 5 years has now appeared in a U.S. courtroom. American prosecutors say Afifa Siddiqui was a desperate would-be terrorist at the time of her arrest in 2003. Siddiqui is scheduled to attend the preliminary hearing on August 19th, but so far no one has explained where she has been in the past 5 years or where her children are now. Her lawyer has explained the case to Press TV.
Yvonne Ridley had reported a couple of weeks back that there were reports of a woman called Prisoner 650 who was being detained in Afghanistan's Baghlan prison. and then she'd been tortured terribly to the point where she had lost her mind. And that news began to leak into the international media. And as soon as that happened, Afia appeared. So the issue is, was Afia prisoner 650, number one? And number two, if she was prisoner 650, then how is her detainment justified, and how is she brought up into a New York civil court on charges of assaulting intelligence officers when the argument on the other side is that she had actually, in fact, been detained for 5 years. She's been missing for that long. It seems unlike her nature to actually be wrestling guns with American intelligence officers. It just is, something is amiss in the reports that are coming out and the allegations that are coming out on her. Any reasonable individual who can observe her condition on television, it would be fair for them to question how a 90-pound, very, very frail individual, and clearly very weak individual, would end up in a situation where, you know, those allegations can actually be legitimate.
Japan commemorated the 63rd anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So far, the United States still refuses to make an official apology. Rather, it continues to support Israel and its nuclear arsenal, all of which is happening under the nose of the International Atomic Energy Agency.
It has been 63 years since the U.S. began the nuclear race with an unprecedented crime in the history of humanity. The atomic bombs caused a tremendous number of deaths and destruction, which explains why the tragedy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is still alive in people's memories everywhere in the world. The result of this Japanese tragedy should be a lesson to the entire world, especially today, as people are living under the threat of weapons of mass destruction, which the U.S. and its ally Israel have been developing for decades. The Japanese commemorated this crime as they usually do every year. This crime is indicative of the ideological foundation and civilization of America. This civilization is a source of pride for the U.S., which claims to care about human rights. The Japanese commemorated the tragedy in Hiroshima by bowing their heads while listening to the sounds of bells that were rung at the same time the atomic bombs were dropped on the city, killing 70,000 of Nagasaki's residents. They hope that American President Bush, who is now visiting the region, could hear the sounds of suffering in these ringing bells. The U.S. is the only country that has used the atomic bomb, and it is the only country that still refuses to make an official apology for this tragic catastrophe. Ironically, it seems that the U.S. thinks that it is the only country that should have nuclear weapons. It even gives itself the right to support Israel's reckless nuclear behavior in the region. Israel has more than 200 nuclear warheads. The mayor of the city of Hiroshima, Tadatoshi Akiba, gave a speech at the commemoration ceremony, which was attended by victims of the atomic bombs, calling for the eradication of nuclear weapons.
From here in Hiroshima, I vow that Japan will stay committed to the three principles, which are 1. Not developing or importing nuclear weapons, 2. Leading the way for getting rid of nuclear weapons, and 3. Establishing peace.
The tragedy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which have caused as much pain as was caused in Palestine and Iraq, show the need for the international conscience to wake up. Only then can the nuclear arsenals be dismantled, including the nuclear arsenal of Israel, which still refuses to sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty and has never allowed the International Atomic Energy Agency to inspect its nuclear facilities.
Security forces in Mauritania have used force to disperse crowds protesting against the leaders of the military coup. The generals, who ousted the president and prime minister on Wednesday, have promised to hold free and fair elections as soon as possible.
Well, on the streets of the capital, Nouakchott, rallies have been held, both for and against the coup. Our correspondent, Mohammed Val, is there.
We are now in the middle of this demonstration that seemingly has happened on the spot, but there are many people who said that it was orchestrated by the powers that be since yesterday. In this case, the military generals who organized this coup. Thousands of people gathered and marched to the presidential palace to show their support for the new leaders of the country. But this is not a new scene in this country. Since its independence in 1960, no coup d'etat has ever happened without thousands turning out and showing their support for the new regime. We also know that this rally is organized by several parties that have been behind the pressure on the military to change the regime, but that's not the opinion of some others who have not shown here today and who are organizing another rally to show their disapproval and their discontent with what happened, saying that basically this is a coup against legitimacy and against democracy in the country. Mohammed Val, Al Jazeera, Nouakchott.
Hi, I'm Jamal Dajani, producer of Link TV's news digest, Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Mosaic started in the wake of 9/11 to fill the information gap that was left by the mainstream media. Our goal was simple, to show the real images of war from the viewpoint of communities that were experiencing it firsthand. You would think that we'd have a lot of competition, but in fact, we didn't. Because to make something like Mosaic with uncensored images and reporting from the most troubled region in the world, you need one essential element: independence. Independence from sponsors that may profit from this war, independence from government funding tied to the administration that supports this war. That's why it could only happen at Link TV. In fact, 88% of Mosaic's funding comes from viewers like you. Mosaic is your show, and I'm asking for your support so we can keep it that way. Just call the number on your screen, 1-866-485-8848, or go to linktv.org and make that donation online. Nowadays, you can also catch my analysis and videos on the Huffington Post. Just search under Jamal Dajani. But even with that great exposure, we still need your help to continue to make the only news digest of its kind with real, uncensored images and stories. This isn't a pledge drive. I have no gift packages for you. I'm just going to ask you to call Link TV now at 1-866-485-8848 or go online to linktv.org because you value Mosaic. I've made more than 1,600 episodes of Mosaic and never had to censor anything because of threats from the administration or corporate underwriters. This kind of editorial freedom is almost an anomaly in this day and age. I urge you to call or log on now to keep Mosaic and Link TV the way it should be: real, uncensored, and honest. Every donation, big and small, matters. You can do it easily online. Just go to linktv.org and hit the fundraising thermometer. Last year was a huge milestone for Mosaic. The generous funding that helped us get off the ground had come to an end, and we turn to you, our viewers, for support. The response was overwhelming. We reached our $200,000 goal. Now we are turning to you again. I'm urging you to call Link TV now at 1-866-485-8848 and make a donation in any amount that you can afford, or just go online to linktv.org and hit the support button. While you're online, why not check out our archived episodes of Mosaic and the Mosaic Intelligence Reports, available to you completely free of charge. Tell your friends and family about this amazing news source. It may open their eyes to a whole new perspective, and in this election year that can change history. You're already watching Link TV, so I know you value what we bring: freedom of speech and the power of uncensored information. Thank you for your support and for making Mosaic part of your life.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.